All right, moms, so I recently had my 6-week postpartum checkup. I had a lot of detailed questions for my midwife, and I thought it'd be good to sum it up for you guys and share all of the very interesting information I got. So let's check it out. First, she checked my Diastasis Recti, which is your ab muscles essentially coming back together. What I didn't know is that I guess for some, it takes up to 5 months for this to happen. So it was really good that I waited to do any heavy exercise, before this. I'm almost all back together except there's one little tiny spot. So she says I am all good to start with core exercises and light exercising, like I plan to do yoga for the next month, just not to overdo it and go crazy on the sit-ups, because that can actually make the diastasis recti actually worse with problems in the long run. So core exercises, yes, but don't go overboard. Now, she also stuck her fingers up there and tested my strength of my vagina. I guess in the front it's really good, and in the deeper inside is not so good. And so I asked her about Kegels, and for me, I feel like I sometimes err on actually excessive tightness, so I told her I didn't want to go kind of too crazy on the Kegels, and there's actually a lot to it, that it's not just about squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. For her, it's actually about not only you start to squeeze and then that sense of lifting up in the body, which is going to help me get more of the deeper strengthening. And then just as important is actually a slow release of letting it go. So I can also practice this with a jade egg or intima balls, where I essentially lift and then also practice the releasing. Because if you're just always squeezing, you could actually cause some issues for yourself in the long run with excessive tightness. Now, of course, I asked her about sex and all that jazz, and I asked her about like dryness with all of our womanly hormones. She said, yeah, you're gonna have issues. You're gonna need a lot of lube in the beginning. Now, one thing you can do, because it's not like I can alter my hormones right now, because I asked about maybe testing my hormones. She says right now, everything's gonna, I believe it's called prolactin, is just gonna be showing up. So I can't really change or fix any hormone thing right now. She goes, in the future, if you find that like the lubrication is totally not working and you're having all this pain with sex, then she could try a little bit of estriol, which is different than estradiol. That's not something you would recommend, but it's a topical thing that you put, cream that you put on the inside, that only if that becomes a major issue. So estriol would be the next step for you ladies. I asked her about my pregnancy tea. I have all this leftover tea, red raspberry leaf tea. And she says that honestly at this point I could take it, but it doesn't really do much. But I do personally have some alfalfa tea, she said is good at any point, so I can go ahead and take that. So red raspberry leaf tea, as you want. It doesn't taste that good to me, so I'm gonna throw it out and just stick to my alfalfa. I asked her about essential oils. She said something interesting, because lavender is typically the one that's kind of known for being the safest for everyone, and she actually said high doses of lavender for newborn boys, there's some evidence about it messing up their hormones and whatnot, so actually to stay away from that kind of stuff and to wait till about 6 months for any sort of essential oil. So I know there's different opinions out there, but that was her recommendation. Now, along the sex conversation, she told me that we ovulate before we actually get our period, so the pulling out method is not always as recommended, especially if you're really not trying to get pregnant. She doesn't recommend doing that, getting pregnant so soon after in your healing, because it'll make for a slightly more challenging pregnancy. So she did recommend some contraceptives. If I wasn't planning to have a baby for a long time, copper IUD would be to her favorite. Then there's obviously condoms, which, and there's one more that she recommended that I thought was interesting. This guy right here. I have not tried it. Looks like a strip you just put in. I have not tried it, so I can't recommend it, but that might be an option. Now, once you have started your period, there's an app that's considered officially a birth control method, as far as being like pretty good, which is, the app is called Natural Cycles app, I believe. I asked her what's sort of normal and not normal for your stool, bowel situation going on. So it is totally normal. For example, right after I give birth, I had no control over farting and all that kind of stuff, TMI. She said that is all normal because of your whole pregnancy, your organs have been, your bowels have been kind of shifted to the side, and now they're kind of just like loosely back into place. So things are going to be kind of crazy. Also, your stools, she says they should normalize by about 3 months. So if any of your mamas are feeling like things are kind of weird down there, then give yourself a little bit of time, but talk to your health professional if there are issues. Now, anxiety and depression runs in my family. I've been finding that I get anxious when I breastfeed, which I did with my first, and then also when I am sleep deprived, I start to get physically anxious, and sometimes I have some intrusive thoughts, I would say. And so, yeah, with the anxiety issue, I wanted to ask her a few things about that. One, I asked her about Gaba, which is kind of an amino acid that I had used before getting pregnant that helped with my physical anxiety. She says little doses are okay, and the whole thing with amino acids are definitely something you should consult with your health professional, but they are not necessarily a no-no, which I know a lot of times online, just to be cautious, they kind of say most things are a no-no. So talk to your doctor if you want to try out some amino acids, which I have found have been really good for like anxiety and sleep and all that. She also offered to do a neurotransmitter test. Her kit, it's a take-home kit, which was between $200 and $300, and this is going to allow me to actually dive deep into finding out kind of where I am with everything going on, that this might give me some insight into my anxiety and help me to figure out maybe a game plan of supplementation and all of that. So for me, this is important. The neurotransmitters, I asked her, I didn't want to waste my money if my body now postpartum is going to be so different later. I don't want to waste my money. There's no sense in doing any sort of hormone testing right now. But the neurotransmitter test, she says, it's not affected via like your birth and all that. So you can go ahead and take that now. So something to think about if this is an issue of yours, if you're worried about any postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, talk to a naturopath, functional medicine, or maybe the doctor would be interested in offering that for you. Now, I asked her a few questions about the babe, since from this point on I'm going to be going to a regular pediatrician. So Beaudry has, it looks like a thick frenulum. I've had some pain with breastfeeding. I use a nipple shield. They took a look and they said that essentially it is thick, but it is flexible, and I'm going to use my own judgment whether or not it's something I want to pursue, because if they do find it, they can just laser or snip it, and a lot of moms find a lot of relief from that. So I have not decided whether to financially invest in that, since I'm managing the discomfort or whatnot, but you would go to a lactation consultant, or I believe a holistic dentist might be willing to examine it for a fee and kind of let you know whether or not a procedure for the kid would make a big difference. I asked her about vaccines. Now, obviously for everyone, this is a controversial topic, but I kind of asked her a few things on when to start worrying about it, because I know for me, I did a delayed schedule with Huxley, and even then he got sick and had, I think, some toxicity issues from all the vaccines we put on him. So I asked her kind of about Beaudry, what to do and when to start vaccines, because I have not vaccinated yet. She says that 6 months of age is a safe enough time to wait. If they are not an institutionalized daycare, I guess there's a big difference between whether or not your baby is exposed to just like a play date, another baby situation, or if they're actually in an institution daycare. If they're not, primary caretaker is not smoking. If you are exclusively breastfeeding and not doing any traveling. So if all of those line up, then it is statistically fine to wait until 6 months before considering vaccinating. That was her opinion, so that's what we're going to do. Now also keep in mind, if you do consult a naturopath, homeopath, functional medicine doctor, a lot of them have detoxification protocols of like homeopathy stuff that your kid can take before and after their vaccines to kind of help with that. So that's something that we're going to be looking into as well. So I hope that helps, gives you some insight, questions to ask maybe your doctor for your 6-week checkup, and let me know maybe other things that you have learned or other things that you are going to do to heal your postpartum body. All right, bye moms.